So hey y'all, I'm back with another video. So tonight's video is yet again another Chioma Chats video podcast edition. So by the title, we're going to be talking about Kelsey Harris and her confessions. It's definitely given Usher Confessions Part 1 and 2. Now before we get into this, I wanted to address something. I understand that there's a lot of people emotionally invested into this entire saga. I understand there's a lot of people who are in favor of certain sides to this entire thing. The verdict is Tory Lanez was found guilty on 3 felony charges, as he should have been. And from the jump 2 years ago, going on 3 years ago, because at this point, now that we're in 2023, Happy New Year, by the way, I've stood on the fact that this man shot Megan Thee Stallion. What I don't like is that I haven't said a word about this case since my initial videos back in 2020, but people act as if I can't make a comprehensive video about everything that came out of the story. Just because Megan Thee Stallion got the right verdict, the correct verdict, and the verdict that she deserved, does not mean that we the public and we the people cannot bring up the past allegations, rumors, or subtopics about the entire case as a whole. Some of y'all are not realizing that literally it's been over 2 years since the story initially broke, and so much has happened and so much has been said and alleged since then. You cannot silence me or anybody for talking about a case of this magnitude from different angles just because certain narratives may not be in favor of the victim, let alone your fave. That to me is asking for disingenuous commentary that is actually biased. And the amount of people that said I was biased for holding everybody accountable was literally weird to me, because why do y'all want me to just sit up here and give you a one-sided truth? Just because the severity of the case? Absolutely not. Let's be real, y'all. For everyone saying that it doesn't matter that she lied, it doesn't matter that Kelsey is inconsistent, it doesn't matter that the ladies fought, it doesn't matter that Meg slept with Tory, it doesn't matter all of these different things, that Meg got shot and that's the only thing that matters. Like, yes, but also no, because you have to be thorough when you're discussing a criminal trial. If I'm not thorough enough, I'm gonna get called biased and accused of leaving things out and dragged by y'all. But then when I'm thorough about speaking about everything, good, bad, ugly, and in between, I'm also getting dragged for victim shaming and calling out where people made mistakes. Like, huh? This is the type of stuff that makes me take breaks from YouTube, because it's so annoying to want to discuss everything in its entirety and let people agree or disagree with whatever the topic is, and then having people insinuate that you have bad intentions for looking at stuff at different angles. I've learned my lesson with YouTube, and that is that you can't win with everybody on the internet. You have to present everything and then give your opinion. I'm not a journalist, I'm a commentator. Journalists are unbiased and they give you the facts. Commentators give you their opinion on whatever the topic is at hand. There is a huge difference. So I think moving forward, now that we have more evidence, more confessions, it's only fair to look at every angle, opinion, and allegation to the overall case. And then the last thing before we get started, I don't care that some of y'all feel as though that a woman's sexual history and a woman's sexual expression should not be brought up. There was a huge debate about Megan Thee Stallion backdooring her ex-friend Kelsey Harris. Whether that is true or not, I believe it to be true, as I still can't figure out a motive for Kelsey and Megan fighting that night, let alone Kelsey and Megan falling out, let alone Kelsey requiring immunity from her testimony. Megan's sexual history was brought into question about her actions to Kelsey and Tory, especially being that she initially lied about being sexually active with Tory, her assailant, not necessarily her actions towards sex alone. And why it was mentioned in my previous video is because a lot of people stated that this was a motive behind the arguments.
I mean, the truth is, I mean, in your song, I think you said, I want the niggas, I want the, I don't know what the, I want the niggas you got or something. We all know that I ain't never wanted none of your niggas. It was really, come to find out, your ass was behind my back that I was on first. And that ain't right, because you supposed to be my best, you supposed to be my best friend. We laugh at that do that to each other. We not supposed to do that to each other. So stop playing with me. And I don't want to go back and forth on the internet. I don't want no, I don't care whatever you think you got on me. Expose the because there's nothing that you can expose that I won't hold myself accountable for. Accountability. You need to learn how to hold yourself accountable for shit.
If so many people believe this to be true, whether it's not, I don't think the rumors came out of thin air. And a lot of rumors have truth or validity to them, even if they aren't thoroughly accurate. But to say that it has nothing to do with the case is actually untrue, because at the end of the day, Megan was very much intimate with Tory and has now admitted that. And knowing how Tory's narcissistic garden gnome lab rat head ass is, I'm sure he played and taunted her on the fact that he was able to get a piece of her pie. Hence Megan saying, I lied because why would I want to admit that I was with somebody who shot me? It's disgusting. Which it is. In my previous video, I even defended Megan lying lying, which I really shouldn't do, but I did because I understood why she lied. Being 5'10" and sleeping with a man who is 5'4", that's embarrassing to most tall women. It's even more embarrassing that she's technically an A-lister and Tory Lanez really wasn't even a household name, and he isn't even cute. So what was one of Megan's mistakes in this entire thing? Her denying that she was intimate with Tory, which was a lie, and caused a doubt on some of the people who believed her in this case. And people are free to have a doubt. However, I also think there's more than enough evidence that shows that regardless of that lie, she was injured like she said she was from the jump, which I said in my previous video. And I also think that's very dense and silly that people would think that bringing up any doubts that they had against Meg, let alone the truth of her not being truthful, is people issuing an excuse for her to be shot. Like, wow. Like, I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I was mind-effed. I'm like, clearly, that is not the reason why people are saying this. Like, that's not an excuse. Like, I couldn't believe that some people would say, so just because she did this, that's excusing her being shot? Like, obviously not, dum-dum. Who in their right mind would say that or believe that? Bringing out subsets to the case is not excusing the outcome or downplaying the victim. It's simply talking about the case in its entirety because guess what? It's been 2 years since this all began and a lot of things have happened. I beg, let's start with this devious insinuations because they're so insulting, especially if no one, and I mean no one, ever said that they are providing an excuse as to it being okay that she got shot for any reason. It's literally crazy that I have to clear that up. As a commentator, it's so frustrating because if it wasn't said, don't jump to such a nonsense conclusion because someone is your fave and you don't want anyone to speak on any wrongdoing. Many things can be true at once, both good and bad. So some of y'all can choose to be daft. I think if there's a narrative out there, we can speak on it because none of the things that I said came out of thin air or wanted to victim shame Meg. Everything that was discussed was simply already out on the internet, already swirling around in people's minds, or already one of the tangents to this very complex case. Moving on, Kelsey Harris's 80-minute interview with prosecutors was released to the public. Nothing was leaked as all of this information was to be made public anyway. That is just regular practice by the judicial system. Also revealed was the phone call between Tory Lanez and Kelsey Harris while Tory Lanez was incarcerated the night following this incident. In addition to that, video footage from an officer's body camera was released showing Megan Thee Stallion crying in an ambulance after the incident. All of these pieces have further enhanced my original claim that Meg got shot, Tory did it, she's a victim, and Tory deserves to be charged and put up under the jail. I've said that since day one. I'm actually tired of repeating myself. I'm very irritated by a lot of the responses because I think people are really choosing to be mad that nobody was scotch-free in this entire case, and people want to discuss every side of it. But I will say, this additional piece to this case is very jarring and definitely provides a double silencer for everyone who doubted Meg, my original claims, and Black women who forever have a lack of initial support or belief from their peers and the public. So I just wanted to discuss some aspects that I noticed within the newly released evidence and supporting factors of the verdict. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. So, number one, as mentioned earlier, there were quite a few supporting factors that were released after the determination of the verdict. In unison, these three pieces definitely have shut a lot of people up and also silenced the narrative that Meg was lying and that Tory was innocent. I do agree that the trial didn't really answer a lot of questions that people had that would have absolved their doubts, but I think the only question that we really needed an answer to was who shot Meg, and that was determined to be Tory Lanez, which I always thought was true. Again, I don't see why anybody ever doubted her allegations of being shot because who lies about being shot? Nobody wants to be shot. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a rapper, gangbanger, a redneck who loves their AK-47s. I don't care who you are. Nobody wants to be shot and nobody lies about being shot. So the body camera footage from the police officer on duty that night was released to the public. I refuse to play it in my video because I think that's just excessive to have that clip on the internet and re-antagonize Meg. However, it is on every blog at this point. With the clip, Meg is clearly in pain, clearly in agony, and clearly in shambles. You can't see that much, but her hair is messed up, she has a knot on her forehead, and she just looks scrambled. So this literally goes to prove that there was some form of altercation. Now, there were people who were coming for me saying that it was never confirmed that Megan and Kelsey had an altercation. And I'm not sure if people are really saying this because they don't believe it or if they are trying to absolve Meg from any wrongdoing. However, the witness literally said that everybody was fighting. So why are we now trying to say that Meg didn't fight Kelsey? My thing with the whole Kelsey thing is that people people are picking and choosing what they want to believe that she said. In her pretrial interview with prosecutors, she said a whole bunch of things. It was 80 minutes long. And then on the stand in court, she basically said that she fabricated what she said in those interviews. However, we still have people utilizing what she said in the pretrial interview to prove certain points when I don't think anything is even that crystal clear. I would be way more inclined to believe what was said in the pretrial interview more than anything else, but everything is just so contradictory that it's like, how can you believe anything that Kelsey says when she keeps trying to throw everything off? At this point, you don't know what she's being truthful about and what she's being untruthful about. And she does have a motive to spite Megan, being that they are no longer friends ever since the situation happened. And whatever she said in that pretrial interview is her recount of everything, but I also think there is some malice behind it. But I will get to her interview in a little bit. All in all, the footage of Megan in the ambulance shows that whatever happened was obviously very serious, very aggressive, and very much did happen. Now, 2, Tory Lanez jail call. So on this episode of World's Dumbest Criminals, Tory Lanez basically insinuates that he shot Meg. The phone call was made to Kelsey while he was in jail, and Kelsey was at the hospital with Megan. He starts off by saying how he knows that Megan will never talk to him again, and then proceeds to be very apologetic for doing something. Let's have a listen.
Regardless, I know she probably never ever gonna talk to me ever again, but bruh, I just want you to know, bruh, I was just so fucking drunk, I didn't even know what the was going on, bro. I didn't even know what the was going on, bro, like that. I never do something like that, bro. Just that, just so drunk, I just didn't even understand what the going on, bro. Like, whatever, yeah. Bro. But you know, regardless, that's not gonna make anything right, and that's not gonna make my actions right, bro. But I'm just deeply sorry, bro. I never even moved like that, bro. Like, never moved like that at all, bro. Like, for real, dog.
I know. There's a lot that happened, but
a whole lot, bro. Like, a whole lot, bro. I feel crazy, bro, but
now, this is why I think there is something missing with Meg and Kelsey falling out, because people were saying that why would Kelsey continue to be Meg's friend if she knew that Megan was intimate with her previous suitors, and people were completely debunking that narrative or that rumor. That is a fair point, because who would do that? But let's briefly assume that Kelsey found out about Meg and Tory and didn't like the news.
We all know that I ain't never wanted none of your niggas. It was really, come to find out, your ass with behind my back that I was on first. And that ain't right, because you supposed to be my best friend.
Then the question becomes, why was she still down at the hospital supporting her, making sure that she was okay, and just showing up to the hospital? Right? But then the point becomes that even if you and your friend are arguing about why the sky is bubblegum pink instead of blue, and y'all are at your wits' end, if something violent takes place concerning your friend, forget all that other BS. I'm worried about your life. Nothing else matters. So they were still friends when Kelsey and Megan got to the hospital. Now, Kelsey answered the call. Her and Tory are discussing what hospital she's at, and Tory's expressing regret. People then question, why would Kelsey answer the phone to speak to Meg's assailant if she is such a good friend to Meg, right? I think that's a fair point to bring up as well, but I also feel as though Kelsey didn't really seem enthusiastic on the phone. I mean, she didn't necessarily seem like angry either. I think after such a wild night where everybody has now sobered up, they were all going to speak to each other again about what occurred in some capacity, even if it was through the channel of Kelsey. I mean, Tory did literally deserve to be cussed out bad, okay, like real bad, whether it's by Kelsey, Megan, whomever. So at some point they were gonna let him have it. And the man was in jail. More times than not, you're gonna answer that jail call to see what the hell is going on, just so you know how to move. But I do think it is very questionable that Kelsey did sit on the phone with Tory, yet her answering the call literally is the reason why Tory really got implicated, because he's insinuating that he did something. I actually think it was smart to answer the call and allow him to incriminate himself on that line. Maybe the girls were being strategic. If so, well played, ladies. My opinion on Tory saying what he said on the phone call is the same as just about everybody else. Nigga, is you dumb? Like, who basically apologizes for something nutty while they're in jail? Bring out the clown suit and a size extra small for this man, because I actually couldn't believe my ears. Like, he basically admitted to doing what we all said he did, which is shooting Meg. I mean, he didn't outright say it, but the context clues are all still there. Now, I will say, I know nobody's going to buy Tory's guilty conscience on that phone as him actually being remorseful. remorseful. But when I said that I think the drunkenness and the cognitive dissonance from all three parties caused this situation, I meant that. Because he seems to acknowledge his liquor intake as being the reason why he was really impaired to assault these ladies, which is no excuse. Like, control your liquor. I said that as well, that everyone needed to control their liquor, but liquor definitely gives you wings like Red Bull. I also said that I don't think he intentionally shot at her and that he shot up in the air, and people still dragged me. Even though, let's go back to Kelsey in the pretrial interviews, that people are only using certain aspects to prove their case, but let's use it. Kelsey said that he shot the gun in the air, but towards Meg's direction. So not directly at her, but he shot the gun up. Again, like I said, he didn't just directly shoot at Meg. There's no entry sights or no exit wounds on her feet, meaning the bullet fragments is what injured her foot, and that probably came from the bullet bouncing off of something and hitting her. I know that's still, to some of you, not a fact, but almost nothing in this case is a fact other than Meg being injured by Tory. Everything else is going to be saying what makes the most sense, because like I said in my previous video, the only people that know exactly what happened that night were the 4 people that were there. I can't really determine if he was truly remorseful and felt guilty for what he did. I mean, I would hope, because what he did was just way too far, but his actions afterwards definitely didn't give remorse. But I think he knew what he did was wrong and was acknowledging that he was in the wrong with what he was saying and how he was saying it. Lastly, the third piece, Kelsey's pretrial interview with prosecutors. Now, the interview is an 80-minute long discourse between Kelsey Harris and the prosecutors of this trial. I do want to remind everybody that this case was picked up by the state of California. Megan didn't initially or ever go and press charges herself, and I'm pretty sure that Meg wanted all of this to be swept under the rug because of many factors. One being that it's just a lot of BS to deal with when you've been injured and you're a black woman who went through a violent situation. And then also to protect the fact that, again, I'm going to say it and I don't care who gets mad, everybody was wrong for something within that situation. So of course I can't play the whole 80 minutes in the interview, but one of my subscribers pretty much created a summarized version of what was said and her thoughts. So I'm going to read this comment. Thank you to Princess Aaliyah from NYC for this breakdown and this comment. She wrote, "I think after all of this evidence dropped, y'all, meaning anyone who has doubts, need to accept it and move on before we enter 2023 and sentencing comes. 1, Kelsey's interview says that her and Tory were just flirting. She never says they slept together. 2, Kelsey says that after the incident, Megan cut her off, didn't clear her name directly. She didn't even say Tory shot her until a month after it happened, fired her as her assistant, and had Roc Nation tell her to move back to Houston. That is what she is upset about. Kelsey was literally at the hospital with Megan during the jail call from Tory. 3, Kelsey is crying, very emotional and very detailed about the entire night during this interview that she doesn't even seem to realize she's on record. While when she was on the stand, she was emotionless and said a whole lot of nothing. On the stand, Kelsey is asked if she's afraid of Tory and she says no. But from that interview, you can tell she was very afraid of him and what he could do that night. Also, Kelsey is now married and has a child with 1501 executive who manages Erica Banks. He was present for her September 2022 interview. Something clearly changed in Kelsey between September 2022 and the trial. 4, Kelsey texted and then called one of her boos that she was in danger after Tory shot Meg, and they got back in the car and Kelsey had him on an open line listening just in case something happened. She didn't care about Tory. On top of her texting Justin, help, Tory shot Meg, 911. 5 minutes after the shooting, because according to her, she was scared of where they were being driven and what was going to happen next. 5, Kelsey's statement from September 2022, which at that point she hasn't talked to Meg in 2 years, corroborates Meg's story that Tory shot Megan with intent to harm and also that he assaulted her being Kelsey, which explains her bruises, her nail and chain in the driveway, and having gun residue because he put his hands on her directly after shooting a gun. Gun residue is transferable from hand to hand. 6, Tory's call to Kelsey. Kelsey isn't apologizing for anything and is at the hospital with Meg. Tory is apologizing for his actions that night because he was too drunk. He didn't sleep with Megan that night at Kylie's house, so he wasn't apologizing for that. If he was apologizing to Kelsey for blowing up Meg, which doesn't really make sense anyway, then he would be apologizing for what he said. But no, he is apologizing for what he did. 7, Sean Kelly is the only independent witness who said Meg and Kelsey were fighting and put the gun in Kelsey's hand for what he believed to be the first shot. Sean Kelly was all over the place and very confused. He also said that everyone, including Tory, was beating Meg's ass and about to throw her in the river, and that Tory shot wildly 4 to 5 times, was the most agitated and violent one, and we know from the gunshot audio that there were only 5 shots. He also states that Tory fired the 4 to 5 shots, that is when he saw a woman drop to the ground and crawl away, which was Megan. So why are the Tory fans trying to bring up Sean Kelly's testimony? Because it still doesn't help Tory. 8, and the biggest question, if Tory is innocent, why didn't Quan, Tory's driver who was present and somewhat involved in the incident, testify on his behalf? Because if you guys are not aware, he was found before the trial ended. Him and Tory both chose to not testify. What happened that night corroborated 2-1, and Megan being a bad friend has less to do with other men. Kelsey never mentions Megan backdooring her in the past, and Kelsey never says she slept with Tory, and more to do with Kelsey being thrown out like trash after the incident. Both women are victims in different ways, but Kelsey isn't a victim in the way the media is spinning it, and Tory isn't a victim at all. So, hey y'all, this is Editor Chioma, and I just wanted to say the only thing that was, a little bit contradictory to me about what she said, because I agree with most of it, is that people are saying that Kelsey never said anything about Meg backdooring her or Meg being with other men that she used to be with. But literally 2 years ago, the clip that I've been playing throughout this video, Kelsey got on live and said that. And if we're going to believe black women, support black women, protect black women, I'm going to believe everything Meg said, and I'm also going to believe what Kelsey said, because it's just in my jurisdiction to do so. I feel like some people try to make it seem like, bloggers were coming out of thin air with that allegation, but we were going off of exactly what Kelsey said, and none of them, including Tory nor Meg, ever denied that this was the case. So, you can definitely argue that nobody ever confirmed it, but I feel like Meg, Kelsey, Tory, they've all come out with like diss tracks against each other, and I feel like that's something that somebody would have cleared up. I would never want somebody to accuse me of backdooring my friend over a man and then not say that I didn't do it. So I just feel like people were inclined to believe that was the case. Also, in one of Megan's diss tracks, she also kind of taunted Kelsey and said, I thought a girl who got her chain snatched and called the laws had something to say. And it's just like, okay, so you're gonna make fun of her trauma, but then your trauma is what you feel as though that she can't also speak on. It's just like, come on now. Both ladies were being kind of messed up to each other. Although I do believe both ladies, and I both want them to have their justice and heal and move on, I feel like what I said about them is pretty factual if you base it off of what was said online. And if we're going to believe and support and protect black women, I'm going to do that. I think people had a right to think that this was true because, again, we still want to wonder, why did these girls fall out to this magnitude? But that's just some food for thought I wanted to add in here. Let's get back to the video. Okay, now this is probably the best summary of everything, because I'm not going to lie, I wasn't going to play an entire 80-minute interview for y'all, but I did watch a lot of the clips that were posted, and I watched this after my initial video. That video was made over a week ago, like literally days after the verdict. So let's start with the elephant in the room, which was my opinion / assumption that Megan and Kelsey were fighting over Tory. The reason for me believing that is because I think there's still very much a gray area as to what exactly they were fighting about. Tory clearly antagonized both of these women. He clearly assaulted both of these women, but they were also fighting with another if a witness says that he saw everyone fighting. I understand that the witness is now being deemed as inconsistent, but isn't everybody in this case kind of inconsistent? That's what makes this case entirely hard to say what is factual and is allowing people to go with their own narrative, because it just doesn't make sense. However, if Kelsey on record said that they were not fighting over Tory and that she had never been with Tory, then I'll be real enough to say that my assumption was wrong. I do believe that the witness is telling the truth when he said that everyone was fighting, because the photos that were released show bruises and scratches and injuries on just about everyone. But Megan and Kelsey had the most injuries. Like, they're both bruised up and bleeding. Meanwhile, Tory had on white shoes that weren't even messed up in any regard. The bodyguard or driver also didn't seem to be that discombobulated as the two ladies in the situation. That's why I believe Kelsey and Megan were fighting after looking at the evidence, because although I definitely believe Tory assaulted them, they were the most tattered, and it's just common sense to me to say that they fought. I just feel like personally something happened between those ladies, and nothing is making sense to me as to why, other than it has something to do with that man. Another point that was made was that Kelsey was upset that they cut her off after the incident, and that it was because Kelsey's name wasn't cleared as a potential suspect of who shot Meg. But if Meg didn't make any actual allegations about who shot her until after about a month or two after the incident, what exactly are they falling out about? Because the internet is going to internet. The internet is going to spread rumors, make allegations, keep their opinions and insinuations regardless. Initially, Meg protected Tory by saying that she stepped on glass, which was a lie, correct? So how could Kelsey really be mad that her name wasn't cleared when nobody initially really thought it was Kelsey until more recently? I really didn't see that narrative out there in the beginning. If anything, people just thought that Meg was lying, the story was exaggerated, or what Megan said about her stepping on glass was the truth. There's a reason why those ladies fought, and there's a reason why they're no longer friends. And if it's because Meg not clearing her name, I guess, but I also feel like she's always implicated Tory and never ever implicated Kelsey to this day. So I think there's another reason. And if people are saying that it's true that it's because she fired Kelsey and didn't clear her name, then when I said in my last video that Meg should be a better friend and that Meg should control her liquor, then that's not victim shaming. That's literally just facts. Maybe Megan was mad because Kelsey was on the phone with Tory while he was in jail, but like I said earlier, there's a reason why she answered that call from Tory. So I think both ladies were bad friends to one another, like I've said before. Next thing that she brought up was Kelsey's demeanor during the interview versus on trial. Honestly, I think Kelsey was recounting her recollection of what happened. She was in a sense shooken up, but even in the interview in September 2022, that is still 2 years after the situation. I wouldn't use the word emotionless, but definitely kind of nonchalant, probably because she was just fed up about this entire thing. I know good and well I wouldn't want to talk about something that happened over 2 years ago, but there is the severity of the entire situation affecting everyone's lives, so I think she tried to look like a neutral party while in court. I know another thing that was said in the comment was that Kelsey texted one of her boos that night and called him to listen in just in case something else happened. People are saying that this confirms that she couldn't have been Tory's girlfriend and that Meg couldn't have been backdooring Kelsey because everybody was single. I just think that's hearsay. Not that she wasn't on the phone with her boo, but the fact of the matter is it doesn't matter if people are single. 9 times out of 10, single people are the ones that are out here having multiple sexual partners. Meaning if I was smashing Tory first and then my best friend started smashing him, even though we're both single, that can still be looked at as weird. I think a lot of people were trying to say that if they weren't in a relationship, then it's not wrong. Nah. It would still be wrong. Come on, y'all. However, I don't know if it would be necessary for Kelsey to prove that she was on the phone with her boo, but I find it weird that most of the internet thinks that the ladies were fighting because of the revelation of them having sexual relations with the same guy, whether it was during that time or months or weeks before. But at one point, Meg says she never had sex with Tory, and then on the stand, she cleared it up and said that she did. And then Kelsey said that it was all flirting with Tory, but then she never said if they engaged sexually. But I guess we're supposed to assume that they didn't, which is fine. But everybody has been so inconsistent in what they're saying, and this narrative has been out for so long that it's crazy that none of them directly cleared up that rumor all this time until this interview. And I don't even necessarily think that she cleared it up per se, because it wasn't until the trial a few weeks ago that we learned that Meg actually did sleep with Tory. The last thing I wanted to talk about in regards to the interview is that I just really want to know why Kelsey said that she lied about things in that interview once she took the stand in the courtroom. People are saying it is to protect her 1501 husband. Okay, maybe, but it's just like you had already been granted immunity. I would have thought that in the courtroom she would be a little bit more honest because, I mean, it's court, and like I said, she had immunity. So are we to believe the interview or are we to believe what she said in court? I think the interview was way more thorough, but being that the two ladies fell out, I can also give credit to the fact that maybe she did fabricate some of the things that she was saying. I believe the assault. I believe that Tory definitely put hands on both of them. I believe that Tory definitely shot Meg. I wish they made her be more direct about what she wasn't truthful about, but I guess at this point the verdict is in, and even without that interview, Tory was going to be found guilty as he should. So all in all, I think now that a lot of this evidence has been put out there, there's a lot of men and even black women that owe Meg an apology, or at least need to admit that they were on the wrong side. I think what this case is going to do is give black women more credibility when we report violence, because too many times there is no justice for black women, and a lot of these incidents go unreported. This incident would have gone unreported had the state of California not picked it up and decided to indict Tory Lanez. I don't think we, the people, and we, the court of public opinion, will ever get all of our answers answered, because it's clear as day that everybody was inconsistent, everybody lied, and everybody did something wrong that night in pertaining to the narrative of this case. But in the end, the right verdict was given. I think for those who comment things like none of the case details matter because Megan was shot, understand that there has been 2 years between when this happened and finalizing a verdict. All of the details matter because it's a very high profile case. There were many lessons to be learned, and you have to determine a motive behind any crime. So all of the details did matter. The details don't excuse the actions, but the details matter behind making a verdict. As a member of the jury, you don't just say, hey, somebody was shot, so we're going to find him guilty. There's so much that goes before you come to that decision, hence why the jury deliberated about their verdict for 2 days about this. Megan, I stood with you from the beginning. I never once thought that she was lying, and with the circumstances now present, I just hope that she learns a very valuable lesson and that she can heal and move on. Kelsey, I said that she was a victim in the situation and maybe not the overall court case, but definitely the situation. People said I was wrong for that. However, she was also assaulted by Tory. I was right about her also being a victim. She's a black woman who was assaulted by the same person that assaulted Meg. And lastly, Tory, we'll see what happens with his sentencing on January 27th. It's coming up in a few weeks, and I think he's finally going to be humbled. This man has been a menace for so long, and I wish that both ladies had discernment to know that he was not good company to keep. I wish neither of them even got involved with this man, and I hope the public finally smells the coffee about Tory Lanez and how he is truly guilty as charged. So that is it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Please let me know your commentary on my commentary down below. What do you think? What do you know? Let me know. If you haven't already, go stream my song Ballin'. It is out on all platforms and I will link it down below. And lastly, don't forget to follow me on all of my social media networks, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye, y'all.
Attention, all eyes on me. This Quincy you'll never be. Y'all not on my pedigree. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
Your man told me I'm pressure. I'm too hot, stay out my desert. Humbling joints, it's my pleasure. I'm in the game and y'all just redshirt. New freestyle to your checklist. Pull it to your block like I play Tetris. Quiet hoe, let me finish my sentence. 10 that they see like I'm from Memphis. Going big like I'm from Texas. Life is being blessed in exes. Made that boy make me his bench press. Now he breathless. Green, white, green when I be reppin'. Nardo Wiccan when we